off my brain.
Yeah! This is the Steve Austin Show. Unleashed.
All right, everybody, let me describe the situation or the location that we're in so you can appreciate this conversation I'm about to have with Kerry King, Guitars for Slayer. Kerry and I are locked away in a 15 by 8 foot wide room, 2 microphones, and I got a beer. Kerry, what are you drinking?
I got a watered-down shitty soda.
A watered-down shitty soda. You heard it here first on the Steve Austin Show. Anyway, so here we are. Dude, you guys just got finished rehearsing because you're about to go back on the road.
Yeah, we leave tomorrow.
By the time this show will have aired, you guys would already played Vegas, L.A., and a couple of other gigs. So how long is the tour going to last?
I think we're home December 1st, so a handful of shows in October and all the way through November.
Well, so we've been trying to do this interview for a long time. You and I met years and years ago, and then we ate dinner about a year or so ago, and we started trying to set this thing up, and you kept talking about practice. Dude, how much do you guys practice?
Well, when we started to set this thing up, I think it was before the first European run. They were home for a few weeks, then there was a second European run. Then we're home for 2 weeks. Then there was a South American run. And I've just been home for about 2.5 weeks when we start this U.S. run. So just getting different songs. Paul just got back in the band, March? So it's just reinforcing songs he might have known in the past, songs he may never have played before, and just, making sure you're ready because, you don't want to go out there at the first show and suck. You want to go out there and give the people at the first show the same people that give the people at the last show. So
right.
We put effort into it.
A lot of the the players have remained the same in the band. Obviously, with the passing of Jeff Hanneman, that's been fairly recent. How has that transition gone? I mean, I know you guys basically founded the band back in the day in '81.
Yep.
What was it about that cat when you guys met? Y'all just clicked.
It was funny. I was in a band with Tom. There was like a top 40 radio kind of band, I wasn't a metal kid yet. I was only 16, and my guitar teacher at the time was priming me. I could tell he was priming me to take his guitar player spot because I was you could manipulate me. I was a 16-year-old. I had no set ways of doing anything. I was just happy to be on stage. I'm like, wow, my guitar teacher wants me in his band. This is cool, So Tom was a singer, and that, didn't last very long. And I kept Tom in the back of my head, and at this point, I knew I wanted to be in a metal band.
Right.
So I was looking back in 80, 81, looking in the Recycler newspaper. I don't even know if they still have that, but that's where you looked if you wanted to get in a band. You looked at so you was looking for bands, and I went and auditioned for this band that essentially was a Leonard Skinner, Blue Oyster Cult type band. Nothing against that, but that ain't what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I knew that when I went in there and played with them, and I saw Jeff on the way in. I said, hey, what's up, I get done and I come out, and Jeff's playing guitar. He's working the desk out front, just playing guitar because he's got nothing to do. He's just killing time playing guitar. And he's playing songs that I want to play that I know. And I said, hey, dude, you in a band? He said, no. I said, would you like to be? And I played with Jeff a handful of times. I played with Dave a handful of times. I brought me, Dave, and Jeff together. And then I hit up Tom and said, hey, man, I got something. You should check it out.
Right. So what was it about you guys that just clicked as a unit? This was the kind of music that y'all wanted to make with, the debut album.
Show No Mercy. Well, we played our stuff. Me and Jeff would go hang out and see bands. We saw Metallica at the Woodstock in Orange County,
right,
of all places. And we were blown away. We were already into Motorhead and Venom, and there was a lot of talk of the Metallica guys. So we're like, let's go check this out. And they were doing what we were doing the way we wanted to do it.
Right.
We just weren't there yet. They were probably 6 to 8, 12 months ahead of us. Just with shit togetherness.
Right.
And even back then, I look at Dave Mustaine, and to this day, I love him as a guitar player, one of my favorites. And I saw him playing, and it just blew me and Jeff away that he's just ripping solos and looking over there. And he's not even looking at what he's playing, you know? And we were just like, man, that's awesome. And we were just into it, Me and Jeff were like 6 months apart in age. We were just like the same person.
Right. So you guys hit it off. Well, you mentioned Dave Mustaine. Is there any heat anymore between you two guys?
Not really. We've done the Big Four shows.
Yeah.
We did the American Carnage, Canadian Carnage, Slayer and Megadeth shows. Dave's a unique individual.
Right. Well, I mean, seemingly everybody in this industry is a pretty unique individual. Him more unique than others.
He's pretty special. You know? It takes a minute to even remotely understand him, and then take him in as a friend or acquaintance, whatever you want to call it.
Well, see, that's an interesting dynamic because that being said, and the short time you were playing with those guys, a couple of gigs, but let's just talk the inner workings of Slayer. How tough is it for you guys to all stay on the same page and not hate each other? Because, man, sometimes it's going up and down the road in my business, the old business is pro wrestling. I mean, we're not in a band. It's all everybody for themselves. But, sometimes, shit hits the fan. It's like, hey, fuck you, dude. How do you guys remain, so composed and friends after all these years? When you hear, like bands like the Eagles, all those guys will fly to a gig on a different jet because they hate each other.
I know I heard a lot of bands like
that. Yeah. So how have you guys weathered the storm?
The only thing that we've done to separate each other purposely is it like when Tom started coming out with his family, I don't know, maybe 10 so years ago. And, I said, it's probably a good idea if you get your own bus, because you never know what's going to be going on our bus, and, for the band, kids keeping you awake all night, if that's what would happen. Kids stumbling in on something they really don't need to see. Right. That's something. But that's the only thing. We fly together. We're still on the same bus. We take off on the same bus in a few days. What took me the longest time to figure out for myself personally was what not to say to people.
Right.
You have your opinion. Somebody's pissing you off that day. You don't need to say it.
Right.
Shut up. Get on with your day. Tomorrow's a new day, and it's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
And, there's so many bands that break up and the individual doesn't usually have the talent of the whole.
Right.
And we're good at what we do. We've got a very strong brand, very strong following, and it would be stupid, The only reason I would leave Slayer today is if Tom said he was done, because then it's just me.
Right.
Or if I was done, it was just Tom. I don't think Tom would want to do it. Because now it's just the two of us.
So how do the day-to-day operations go by? I mean, just as far as someone need to call the shots. I mean, like, hey, if we're just talking about something as simple as artwork on a T-shirt or the set for that gig, who's making all those decisions? Is it a voting process? Is it seniority? Is it you and Tom?
I pretty much made up the set list since the dawn of time.
Right. Always been that way. Why?
I don't know. I guess it just got.
Are you just that take control kind of guy?
Kind of that, and kind of if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it.
Right.
And I do good set lists, I think. But that being said, when I make up a set list, I run it by everybody. Hey, you got a problem with any of these? Does this song suck for you to sing? Does this song suck after this song? Tell me what's up, because I'm not thinking of it in that perspective. T-shirts, it used to be me, Jeff, and Tom. Now it's just me and Tom.
Right.
So the difficult part about that is it could be 50-50 or 100%.
Right.
If it's 50-50, chances are I'll fold because I have better wars to win. I'm not going to raise a red flag because this font's not what I like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How involved are you in the creative process of your T-shirts? 'Cause I was very hands-on back in the day. You dig that?
Probably not as much as you because there's so many coming through.
Right.
But everyone that comes by, I see before it goes out. And if I don't like it,
so you give it a thumbs up or down.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. So I was reading about the songwriting process within Slayer, and when Jeff Hanneman was still around, he kind of had his thought process, his topics. You with yours, Tom with his, but you like to write the music first.
Mm-hmm.
And then come up with the lyrics.
Yep.
Now, to me, break this down for me because I'm a guy that always wanted to be a rock and roll star, heavy metal guy, whatever you want to call it. I want to be in music. Can't sing worth a shit. Dad tried to teach me how to play guitar. Didn't apply myself. No musical talent. Parents wouldn't buy me a drum kit. I ended up bouncing around the world in a 20 by 20 squared circle. It worked out okay.
Sure.
But when I'm thinking, write a song, I'm thinking, okay, come up with the lyrics first, and then you wrap the song around it musically. So I'm backwards of what your thought process is. How does that work for you?
I've only done that once by accident in my career.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I wrote some lyrics because I was either on a bus or a plane and bored to tears, and I had an idea, so I went with it. Turned out it became Spirit in Black, and then we didn't make up the song for the lyrics. We had a song the lyrics happened to fit in.
Right.
And that's how that one came to be. Other than that, 98% music comes first because it's a me and Jeff arranged song, a
Right.
musician, not a lyricist. I mean,
Right.
we're both, but we're musicians first. So I think that lends more to the music itself being awesome before the lyrics are even there.
Gotcha.
So you've already got one aspect of the music being awesome before there's even a lead or a vocal track put on it. Then when you add the vocals become icing as well as the focal point rather than just being there and working its way in. It just works for us. And then the leads are like the last thing we do.
Have you always been adept at writing songs, or was something that you had to learn how to do? Because I mean, I used to go down the road and with so many damn thoughts and shit that was happening, man, I should be able to write a song. And I could write short stories,
Yeah,
but
same
not so
thing.
much a song. So was that easy for you, or is it a learned trait process?
Well, you can tell listening to the first record. We were writing that as probably late 17, but it came, 18, because that came out when I was 19. So you could tell they're thoughts of a high school kid rather than what we have now, thoughts of a 40-something-year-old. So I think we graduated the intensity of the lyrics, the topics of the lyrics, you know. We never could have grasped it on the first couple records, but as you understand society more, you can attack things from different angles, so to speak, and present things differently in ways that people were like, I never thought about this like that. I never thought about this coming from that angle, you know. That's the part that interests me and makes lyric writing easier for me, because there's so many different ways you can slap people in the back of the head.
Right. Man, there's so many times I go to Ozfest and I would see Ozzy reading the teleprompter, to help him out with the lyrics. How in the fuck do you remember all the songs that you play as a guitarist?
That's one of the reasons we practice.
I know it sounded like maybe a layup question, but
to get that question mark out of the way.
yeah.
You know, and Tom, I told Tom to get a teleprompter years ago, and he'll insist on having a piece of paper like that with like a keyword on it.
Yeah.
And he'll just look down and see that keyword. I'm like, dude, they don't cost much. Get a prompter. So when you're completely out of your fucking mind, you look down there and there you go. Bam, there's that lyric that everybody wants you to sing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he still does it like, as cheap as possible. Piece of paper taped to the monitor, covering his sound.
Yeah. I was talking to Zach Wild one time. I'm pretty good friends with him. And I said, Zach, when you're out there playing all that bullshit, man, I said, what are you thinking? He didn't even hesitate. He goes, Steve, you ain't thinking. He goes, you're just doing it. He goes, if you're thinking, you're stinking. Is that true for you? I mean, you're just out there going through your...
Absolutely, but there's another perspective. When it comes time to go home, like you've been on the road for like 8-10 weeks.
Yeah.
My problem is I'm already home. And I'll be on stage, and I'll be thinking about sitting by the pool or going to the bar and having a drink.
That's where your mind's at?
Yeah. And then I'll come back and go, shit, where are we at? And you gotta like really kick back into it. But it's so second nature. Your hands just do it.
Yeah.
Without thinking about it 99% of the time. But yeah, man, I mean, that last week is always a pain in the ass because either I'll be going home, Paul will be going home, somebody's sitting at home while we're on stage playing live,
Yeah.
and it's hard to stay focused when you've been doing it like we've been on this record since 2009.
Right. Well, so there would be times when I'd be on the road and I'd be like, man, I can't wait to get the fuck off this motherfucker. And then when I get home, 2.5 days later, I was jonesing to get back on.
It would take me a little longer than that.
A little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, then again, I mean, it's a little bit different. We would be home a little bit more often than y'all. We'd constantly tour, but we're at home a little bit more, so maybe the cycle's a little bit different.
Yeah, we're gone at least 3 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
At least.
So then when you get home, how long does it take you to decompress and get back into your zone?
A couple days, and that's basically just in case you came from a time zone that's opposite of yours.
Right.
Know? But other than that, it's just going home and not picking up a guitar, not headbanging.
No.
Not putting my body through shit,
So when you're at the house, will you just chill and not pick up a guitar and not play or practice?
For a while.
Yeah.
And that could be any different amount of time from any different tour. But with Jeff being out of the picture, I play a lot more because I'm responsible for more music coming, future music to come out.
Yeah.
So I keep that in perspective. But I don't sit around and play near as much as Zach or John Five or the guys that, that's their life. I come home and I've been doing this over 30 years. And, it's good. I love it. I love playing guitar.
Dude, you
but
guys
I
are
want to come home and sit and do nothing,
But you guys are still rolling strong. Y'all
Sure.
had a hell of a damn run, and it's continuing.
Yep.
It's not slowing down. How much longer do you want to go out and keep doing this?
I feel good. and that's the first important thing. I feel good and I like it. If I didn't feel good and like every show hurt,
Right.
or I had to take cortisone to get through a show or something, then I'd have a totally different perspective, you know. I think this has kept me young, actually, believe it or not.
Well, yeah, it's like, when people stop working, that's when they kind of start feeling old. But, being on the road can be a real grind.
It is.
By the same token, it's a blessing to be able to play music and get paid for it. But at the end of the day, that's what you do for work.
Uh-huh.
So it goes both ways. Tom Araya, am I pronouncing his last name correctly? He had some surgery on his neck.
Yep.
What exactly? He had some fusion?
I think it was something similar to what you had.
Yeah, so I had a 3/4 fuse, but I know, my point is that kind of the way he was banging his head took its toll on his neck, and now he kind of restricts himself from doing that, had the surgery, he's in a better place. What kind of injuries have you racked up through your 30 years on stage? You had to have some crash landings and some fuck-ups. Or you feel good? Mm-mm. Knees good?
The only
Hips
thing,
good?
the only thing that happened like 3-4 summers ago, I don't know if it was vertigo, but we were playing with Maiden at Nebworth 4 or 5 years ago. And it was after we played late at night, and on that particular bill, we played like 4 in the afternoon. And the night prior, I was up with Dave Murray till like 4 a.m. drinking in the bar.
Yeah.
And, so I probably went on stage half caught still. Didn't get enough sleep.
Yeah.
We got off stage. The party started again, 5 in the afternoon. And we had to take a ferry to get to our next place. So we get out of there and drinking, get on the ferry, drinking on the ferry, get off the ferry. We drive from somewhere in France to somewhere we're going in Austria. And I got off the bus, feel great. And we had 2 shows in a row coming up in Vienna, Austria. So I wake up that afternoon to my wake-up call. I can't describe what was wrong with me. I thought I had food poisoning because I couldn't stop throwing up.
Right.
Then I realized that by what I was doing with my head was making me throw up. It wasn't because I don't eat weird shit on the road because
Right.
I'm deathly afraid of getting food poisoning.
Right.
So what I came to realize is I'm sitting above the toilet hurling one night, as if I went in a head banging motion.
Yeah.
My head thought it was going like this, and it would instantly make me puke.
Right.
So I had to sit in bed, and then as that day went on, I kept having my tour manager call me like every hour. I said, push the show as long as you can. Push the show as long as you can. I'm going to try to make it. And then he called me at D-Day. He said, this is it. You're making it or you can. I said, I can't stay out of bed for more than 15 minutes. My first show ever canceled.
How long did that last?
If I was 5% that day, the next day I was 10. Next day I was like 18. Next day I was about 30.
Gotcha.
And it was a slow comeback.
Yeah.
And I attribute it to being exhausted and dehydrated.
Yeah.
Because Tom had something a little bit similar in Australia one year. And, he looked like he was sick and going to hurl, and he was drinking a shit ton of coffee, and he wasn't getting any sleep. So it's a little different than drinking a shit ton of liquor and not getting any sleep.
Right.
But the same effect.
Yeah.
And I didn't headbang for like 10, 12 shows, and then we came back into the Jimmy Fallon show. So it was right after World Painted Blood came out. And that's when I'm like, I'm going for it. And I gave it enough time, and I felt good. And I felt good ever since.
So you're 46 now?
I'm 49.
49. You're older than me. I got you in dog years, though. I got some miles on me. Talk about life on the road. Towards the end, I started slowing down a little bit because I couldn't recover as fast. Back in the days when you were a kid doing this stuff.
Oh, yeah. You're invincible.
The drinking and everything. It's kind of changed. Or has it? Have you slowed down? Have you starting to pace yourself now?
Well, the way this is funny. Way I know I'm not an alcoholic is I don't wake up.
You quit
in the morning,
again. Yeah.
I don't wake up in the morning and need to drink.
Right.
And that's how I know. I mean, once every 6-8 months, me and my wife will have what we call a day drink, a day drunk. And we'll
Right.
get drunk in the afternoon, just drink till we go to bed. But that's not my life. That's not who I am. My thing's more of a social thing. After the show, I got so many friends in this business and your business.
Yeah.
When I just saw Jericho. And he played like 2 miles from my house. I'm like, man, I can't snub Jericho. I got to go.
Yeah.
And then we end up at my house and we drank till 3 in the morning. But it's just the kind of thing where you come through town and your friends want to have that shot with you. You know, they want to have that drink. They want to hang out. And that's just who I've become and who I am. So I'm glad I don't need to wake up and have a beer or something because that would end my life a lot quicker, I'm sure.
How's the camaraderie on the road? Because we would cross back in the day when WCW was still around and I was in WWF, or vice versa. crossing territories and maybe staying in the same hotel, and then of course it'd be Drink Fest. That's the environment you guys are in all the time. So it certainly lends itself to a sore liver down the road.
Absolutely. And with that being said, there's restaurants I go to, like in Indianapolis, for instance. I know the head bartender at St. Elmo's Steakhouse, what most people say is the best steakhouse in town, either that or Shula's, and it's right down the street from where the Colts play. And that guy comes to our show every time we come through town, and right around the corner, Indianapolis is one of my second homes for some reason. Never lived there, just one of my second homes. There's another place, guy used to work at the Hard Rock Cafe, him and his buddy, and they always come to our shows, and it's on when I'm with those guys. Right. It's on. So it always hurts when I leave Indy in more ways than one.
But you're just drinking or just having fun because you like to. You don't just throw down because you got to rep the Slayer brand.
Yeah, that's not my style. I mean, it might turn into that.
Right.
It turns into that, more often than it doesn't. But especially in Indianapolis and some of my other home away from homes. Like I got a football buddy, and he lives in the Keys, so he'll usually come to Atlanta or anywhere in Florida or sometimes Michigan, 'cause that's where he went to college. But that dude, he'll be on the side of the stage, and all 6, 7 of them, however big he is, and he's holding the bottle of Jaeger, just swigging the whole time we're on stage. So we get off stage, he's already having his party.
Right.
So then the question is, do I want to catch up or do I want to enjoy the festivities?
Yeah. Hey, man, how did you guys come up with the name Slayer? Were there any other options? Were there any front runners? Or who came up with the name?
That was the front runner. If I'm not mistaken, that was Jeff's idea. Without the logo, just the name itself.
Right.
And I think there was 3 we were looking at, and I couldn't tell you what the other 3 were. I mean, for a long time, even to this day, people will say, so you got Slayer from Dragon Slayer. And I'm like, no, that's a rumor that we never started. I don't know where that came from, but a lot of people think we did. But the other 2, I couldn't even tell you what they were. Probably a good thing. I mean, we got a pretty good one.
Man, I'm a big fan of art in general, specifically stuff on album covers, T-shirts, that kind of stuff. How did you guys hook up? Larry Carroll has done all of y'all's covers, or 3 or 4 of them?
4, yeah.
How did you guys
he did
hook
the
up
last
with that cat?
3 when Dave was in the band, and when Dave came back to the band, he did the first one, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
And I have that one.
So how did you guys hook up with Larry Carroll? I mean,
I don't remember originally.
Dude's he's a crazy artist. I mean, the stuff is just so badass. I mean, it's not like, from what I was gathering or reading, I mean, he kind of just knows, or maybe gets a chance to listen to the album, but you guys don't specifically give him any instructions. And maybe until you see something and then point him in a direction. How does that process work? Because the album covers are killer.
Yeah, I don't remember in the beginning. I think it was just an idea from the record company because, I mean, when he worked on Rain and Blood, I was 26. I didn't know anything about art or artists or anything.
Right.
So somebody had to suggest him, and then when we got that, when we liked it, so we kept going. We kept going with the same team. We had the same engineer. We had the same artist up through Seasons in the Abyss. And then, we got him back when Dave came back. And around Seasons and certainly Christ Illusion, like we would give him song titles or the lyrics. So here, read this. He makes nightmare art, what I call it. It looks like just shit nightmares are made of.
Right.
And then he presented his first idea for Christ Illusion, and we just redirected a little bit.
Right.
The idea is basically what he came up with, but we made Jesus a little more fucked up. That's like the end of it.
It's a badass cover.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. You were talking about Seasons in the Abyss. It was about 1990. I was wrestling in Dallas, Texas at the time, in Metroplex Arena for Gary Hart. I just stopped wrestling with WCCW. Slayer came through. They needed some big guys to work security. Somebody contacted me. I actually worked security at a Slayer concert at Dallas Metroplex when you guys came through on the Seasons of the Abyss tour. Things have changed. It's gotten into a bigger machine. I mean, with the explosion and y'all's popularity.
Well, I think that was the tail end of where we were really trying to change what security was. Because security didn't understand what we were doing, and if somebody came over the barricade, they were just out. No matter how much that poor kid paid for his ticket, if that was all the money he had for his ticket, and he inadvertently got thrown over in the second song, He's out of the building, you know, and we wanted to change that.
So what is y'all stance on that? Because basically, man, I was pretty jacked up. I had a long blonde ponytail. I was walking around. I didn't do a damn thing. I was enjoying the music and checking everybody out, and it was a great time. There weren't any fights to speak of, certainly some moshing, but what do you guys expect now out of security? Because sometimes, I mean, if you go back and look at some clips of, you know, various bands or whatever, people, you know, some of those guys take some shots and take their liberties on some of these people that paid. So where do you draw the line with your security? What kind of instructions do you give these cats?
Well, we don't roll with our own anymore, but we do have security discussions with the house, you know, people. And of course, if there's a fight, they have to separate it. That's how it is. But if anybody comes over the barricade, if they're not swinging at you, let them out.
Right.
You know, if they kick you in the head by accident, it's not their fault, you know, and I've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
You know, some guys don't belong down there, and if Tom sees it, if we're running 2 songs together, he'll stop and point at that dude and get rid of him.
Right.
You know, and of course the crowd loves it and think they're doing it, Tom's doing it for him, and at the end of the day, he's doing it in their best interest because that guy's going to fuck somebody up that don't deserve getting fucked up.
Yeah.
It's just tough, man, because you can't be down there and police everything.
Yeah. But some of the clubs, like the show y'all going to play, y'all will have played, the Palladium in L.A. versus some of those big outdoor festivals where you guys have, I don't know, how many people are there? 100,000?
We did Mayhem in 2012, and we did the biggest one ever in San Bernardino, and I think they had 25,000. But, yeah, we big places like that. Actually, the Big Four shows, we did the one in Coachella, which had to be 60,000, 80,000. We did the one at Yankee Stadium, and the ones in Europe were over 80,000.
So, dude, what are you thinking when you see in that sea of people digging your music? It's just, is that a bigger high than a small club? Or do you dig the intimacy of that small club and being able to rock that thing with the acoustics?
I think that intimacy is more fun for me.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I try to put on the same show because if you're playing for 20, 200, 20,000, 100,000, you know, everybody paid.
Right.
And they deserve my best. That's another reason I don't drink during the day.
Right.
That's another reason. I mean, I've broken that rule maybe 10 times in my life, usually with Zach Wild.
Right. I got bored. I got barred by Bob Brand from coming to Zach Wild's house because every time I would go, I would take a half gallon of wild turkey and our Crown Royal, and we did some stupid shit, and Bob Brand said, if I come up, I cannot bring the Crown Royal anymore.
Well, he's your size. He's giant. And he loves to wrestle and, like, you know, get roughhousing and shit.
Hey, man, you used to wear every now and then a Stone Cold shirt while you guys were playing on stage.
Yeah, for a whole tour.
Man, I dug that. I was very flattered.
Had the one with the fingers.
Yeah. When did you start watching wrestling?
I don't know, man. Definitely in a better time than it is now.
Yeah, it's changed. I'll be politically correct and say it's changed. For
me, when I liked it, of course it was fake, and of course it was, you know, storylines and shit like that. But the characters were believable.
Right.
The Stone Colds, Cactus Jack, fucking Rock, Triple H, Undertaker, Kane. These guys were scary, could do some awesome shit in the ring, and didn't need no stupid bimbo tagging along with them, you know. And I liked it for that. It was cool. I went to a bunch. I went to WrestleMania 2000 in Anaheim. I went to one of the other pay-per-views. I got my floor seat still. I met you at one of them.
Yeah.
Same one I met Jericho at, whichever one that was.
Speaking of, we keep, in our conversation, we talk about Dave or Paul, the drummers. They keep seeming to rotate. Dave Lombardo come in, Paul Bostaff, is that his last name correctly? Bostaff. So what's the story on the comings and goings of the drummer?
Well, Dave, I mean, he'd been back since 2001, 2, something like that. He came in when Paul left the last time. And every time Paul's been in the band twice, and he left, you know, on good terms. He just thought there was something else out there for him. And he's been my friend for all these years. But when Dave was in this last time, I figured I'd be on stage with him until one of us fell off the stage dead.
Yeah.
You know, and things change. He got some bad advice and listened to some bad advice, gave us an ultimatum 10 days before we went to Australia. And I said, I can't have this over my head. And I feel bad for Dave to this day. I really feel bad for him because he shot himself in the foot. Maybe he thought he had the upper hand, but you ain't going to get me.
Yeah.
You got to be in the place where, all right, before I got home, I knew what I was going to do.
Right.
I knew exactly what I was going to do for Australia.
Right. What do you do to wind down? If you're not doing Slay, if you're not trying to write anything, you're just trying to chill out. I know you have this monstrous snake collection.
I do, to the point where now it's in a warehouse and not in my house.
You took it out of that. When I came over the one time, it was in the laundry room.
The garage.
The garage?
Yeah.
So it's in a warehouse?
Yeah, my wife wanted the garage back. At least I can.
So,
do that.
what do? You call up some warehouse, say, hey, man, I got.
Well, actually, a friend of mine who's got a reptile store in Orange County someplace.
That was a reptile store, not an erectile store.
Yeah, reptile store.
For my deaf listeners.
He's got they're in one of those places, got like an office in the front, warehouse in the back, and his place is just one big room. But then one next door opened up, and he wanted the front space. He wanted the window space. I'm like, I don't want no fucking window space. So there's a door going to the warehouse where all my shit is, and the front door where all his supplies and stuff are. So, it's just, I took the place next door to him. There's somebody there 7 days a week. If me or my other guy ain't there, somebody's there, which is awesome to me because it's better than security, Somebody's looking out for you. Then I get the back. I share the rent. I don't share the rent. I pay the majority of that one because I got the most space, but that's where my stuff is. And now I got a full-time guy that does it because I just tour too much.
So do you ever go in there and
I was there the other day, yeah.
What do you do? You just mess around with them, check them out,
Well, I mean,
look
we
at
probably
them?
had 500-600 babies this year, so we're still in the process of picking anything that I might want to keep, anything that's going to be top dollar, anything that's going to be wholesale. It's just, decision kind of things.
So, man, are you breeding them, then selling them?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the deal?
Probably the biggest carpet python breeder on the West Coast, at least. Could be in the States.
Is there paperwork that's got to go with every single snake, all that?
I don't ship overseas where I would need that.
Right.
I used to have an import-export permit, but, Europe's ahead of us. So if somebody wants one of my snakes, they want it because it came from Kerry King.
Right.
And then it just becomes a hassle, and you're paying more shipping than the snake's actually worth. But the stuff I'm doing and stuff I'm producing, up until this year, I had 6 of the only ones in America because I'm the only guy to produce them outside of Europe.
How long have you been doing this?
I got back in around 2003. But all through the 80s and 90s, I had a bunch, and I got out for 8-10 years because it was becoming bigger than Slayer.
Right.
And I wasn't paying attention to Slayer.
Really?
So when I got out of all that shit, that's when you saw Kerry King's name on everything again.
Yeah. So, but what made you say, hey, man, I dig the snake? It was just something you always...
In the early days, 84-ish, I went to some people's house in, I think there was Houston, somewhere in Texas, and they called themselves the Doom Society. They were big-time Slayer fans. And they had a Colombian boa constrictor, and they called it Slayer.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool, just the reptile in general, because it's not like a dog, not like a cat, not like a lizard. Doesn't need to be fed and watered every day. You could leave it with some water and leave it for weeks. And
Right.
that fit in good with what I do.
Yeah.
So I went home, and I got a boa constrictor, and I named it Venom, because I like Venom.
Yeah.
And I had that snake for a long time. And, 1 led to 2, 2 led to 10, 10 led to 50 at my parents' house. And that wasn't a good idea. But I moved him into the garage there, and that's how I had him there for a while. And then when I got my own place, they came with me.
Fox Sunday. Don't miss the world premiere of Almost Human. In the year 2046, Detective John Kennicks was ambushed and left for dead. Now, as he returns to the force, it will take a machine
I'm Dorian.
Are you a robot?
Yes, I am.
I'm not driving with one of those things.
to bring him back to life.
I can't say that I was born, but I was made to feel.
Fantastic. I get the synthetic with the bleeding heart.
Almost Human, premiering Sunday on Fox.
Steve Austin, Unleashed.
Kerry King, guitars for Slayer. We were talking football the other day. Your team is?
The Oakland Raiders.
The Oakland Raiders. Hard times. You think Terrell Pryor is their quarterback of the future?
He's impressed me a little bit this year. I mean, I got to say he's better than I expected him to be. He needs some weapons, without a doubt. I think McFadden's always hurt. He's excellent upper echelon when he plays. He hadn't played an entire season since we got him. Yeah.
Are you into the fantasy football at all?
No, because I think it would take too much of my time. I'm always in pools every year
Right.
to where you pick wins.
Right.
But if I'm picking players, I need to pay way more attention to stats and stuff like that.
Who else you like in football?
I like football.
Yeah.
I'm on Sunday, don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
It's my church day. I'm watching football.
Same thing with me. People always ask me, what's your team? I don't really have a team. When the Saints won the Super Bowl a couple years back, I was cheering for the Saints. But I kind of floating around, watching different programs, like what Harbaugh's done with the 49ers. Mm-hmm. Like what the other Harbaugh's done with the Ravens. In that Super Bowl, I wanted the Ravens to win because I wanted the older brother to have one up on Jim. But, it was hard to really pick anybody in that team because I wanted both teams to win. But it turned out like it did. So I don't really just hang all of my hopes and dreams on one team. I just dig the storylines and how everything's shaking out.
I mean, what's up with the Giants? Holy shit, yeah. Zach Wild. Zach loves the Giants.
Zach a big Giants fan?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I sent him a text the other day with a picture of their 0-6 record.
Yeah. Dude, I don't understand what happened. This doesn't look anything like the same team from last year.
No, and on the other side of the ball, I don't understand what the Vikings are doing starting Josh Freeman when he's been there for 2 weeks. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I question the Christian Ponder draft back in the day. A lot of people were high on him, his athleticism, his upside, with a few years of maturity. Doesn't really seem to have happened. Who's the other guy in that system?
Castle.
Yeah, Matt Castle, when he came in to back up Brady, and he got the good contract in Kansas City, and, one good year there, but he got paid.
Decent, yeah.
He got paid, and he's a good backup.
Yeah.
He's just not the
it's
guy.
Just, well, Kansas City wasn't – they were still in transition. They weren't ready to be prominent like they are now.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what would have happened had Matt Castle gone to them and with Andy Reid just coming in.
Oh, absolutely.
Andy Reid has got those guys going in a good place right now.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
And I'm really happy for Alex Smith because I dug what that kid has been done ever since he got down to San Fran. He's had a different offensive coordinator every single year. So, there's high expectations for that kid being a number one draft. And, now he's a damn good quarterback. With that injury, a concussion 2 years ago to put Kaepernick in, and it was over for him.
Yeah, Alex Smith last year when he went down, he had like one of the top completion percentages, one of the best quarterback ratings, and he finally had a guy that was there longer than a year, and he can embrace a system for a change.
Right.
But he still came to KC and he's still doing well. But Andy Reid, Jesus, Andy Reid got ran out of Philly. He's a great coach.
He's a great coach. I just think that his time was up there. I just think that with the players, they got some good players, but things went stale. Things went stagnant.
Sure.
I don't know if he lost the team.
Kind of like with Jeff Fisher, too.
Yeah. So it was just time for him to go elsewhere. But I'm glad that the elsewhere place that he went, Kansas City, which is a great franchise, he's found success.
Yeah.
Those dudes are busting ass on defense.
Yeah.
And, Jamal Charles back from his knee injury. He's running strong. He's doing well. When you think of great quarterbacks, let's talk about Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. Anybody else in the conversation right now in that elite status?
Rodgers.
Who?
Rodgers.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, my bad. Green Bay, obviously, he's up there as well. So who's your favorite quarterback in the league?
Man, it's hard not to like Peyton Manning. I've always dug him. You're saying, what's your other team? I always dug Indy because of Peyton.
Right.
And I can't like the Broncos because I'm a Raiders fan, but I still like Peyton Manning.
I never really liked the Broncos, but I like them now just because Peyton's playing for them. He got the neck injury.
He's a general.
Yeah, he's a class
act. And all the shit they made up in the media the other day about Jim Irsay talking whatever he talked, whatever he meant, however it came across, let Jim have the final word. Don't put words in his mouth.
Yeah.
He admires Peyton Manning. He had him forever. You'd be an idiot not to say Peyton's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Yeah, obviously, if not at least in the top three, and you can make that top three anything you want. I really like the class and integrity and talent of Andrew Luck. This kid,
he did good, man. He did better than I expected.
Well, he's a great football player. And Russell Wilson, I remember seeing him at NC State. Then he went to Wisconsin, got drafted. People, was third-round pick. And I was saying back in the day, this kid's going to be special. He's going to be a starter. And they brought in Flynn. Russell beats out Flynn. Now he's the guy. And Seattle's on fire.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's talk running backs. Who are you liking in running back right now?
Well, you got to say Adrian Peterson. After him, I don't even know where you go. Well,
man, you got to go Marshawn Lynch.
I was going to say Marshawn Lynch.
You got to have him in there.
He's an animal.
He is. I love the way he runs the football. I love to see Adrian Peterson when he, he'll break a couple of tackles but just get going because you don't expect a guy that big to be running that fast. Jamal Charles is fun because he's so shifty and elusive, but I also like Arian Foster.
He's
turn that
pretty
ball
awesome.
north
He's
and
another big boy.
Yeah, he'll start skating along that side, skating along that line of scrimmage, and he'll cut it north and south and plant and go. And man, that dude's salty, and he'll lay a lick on your ass.
Unfortunately, Houston doesn't have the team this year, so it's taken his success away.
What is up with Houston? Is Kubiak the guy? Is it the team?
I don't
the
think it was
coach?
Kubiak's
What is it?
problem. Schaub just seemed to have lost it this year.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends don't believe in him anyway. I was kind of not a bandwagon guy, but I always believed in him.
Right.
And this year, I kind of have my doubts, especially after last year going out of the playoffs the way he did. But this year, pick 6, 4 games in a row. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Right.
He's a